What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Bleacher Report. I am your host, TD from tdphinstalk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. Punch that like button on your way in the building. Let your friends and family members know that we're live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. right here on Bleacher Report. Ladies and gentlemen, Miami Dolphins, all current news and all rumors, topics, everything dealing with the team, you can catch right here on BR. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in because we got a few things that we want to talk about in regards to the Miami Dolphins this evening. One of the biggest things that I want to discuss today is the fact that we have a roster issue that we're going to have to talk about now. At this point, it's getting a little scary because the team is believed to be in a year where they have to prove something. They have to have some level of success. Now, a lot of people are saying that this offseason is not indicating not an iota of a potential successful season, as we've lost key players and the players that we've replaced them with aren't better, may not even be the same. And the offensive line in a lot of people's mind is still not been addressed. But what I will tell you is, we still have an entire draft to consider as well, okay? But there is still signs of concern, and we're going to get into those in just a moment. And as you know, Calais Campbell, some of the breaking news in the Miami Dolphins community, Calais Campbell decided to come back to the NFL and play another season, but he decided to do it with the Arizona Cardinals. All right, just under $6 million, about $5.5 million deal, and it could reach even higher depending on incentives. But he decides not to come back to the Miami Dolphins, but instead go to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. That move is what prompted me to make that the subject of the conversation, this topic, with the fact that we have roster issues. Why do I say that? Because when you really look at the Miami Dolphins roster, you like to first start with, your starters. You ask yourself, how many holes do the Miami Dolphins have? And when you say holes, you say to yourself, how many positions that start on the field are either a question mark or we don't even have anybody in it? Either a question mark or we don't even have anybody in the role. Those are what I consider holes. And when you go down the line, you start to think to yourself, when you start on the offensive side of the football, you have your quarterback that you're going to, rally behind no matter what, in Tua Tagovailoa. You have a nice room full of backs at the running back position, A-Chain, Wright, and we add a few. Jonnu at the tight end position, maybe you can add another, but you have, your guy there, your primary guy, Tyreek and Waddle, Malik Washington, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. You have those guys at the wide receiver position. So the offense is looking pretty solid, but then you ask yourself, well, hold on, not so fast, because the offensive line is the big issue in Miami. We feel good about our center, Brewer. We feel good about Austin Jackson on the right side of the football. We bring in James Daniels at the right guard. He's really good. Injury prone, but he's really good. Should be ready for the season, maybe, right? But you say to yourself, we have a hole at left guard and we have a hole at left tackle. And then you also say to yourself, yeah, but Teron Armstead could come back. But we don't know this. We don't know, matter of fact, if he's actually going to come back. We don't know. And that's two holes on the offense. And when you say that, it's not that bad. Two holes on the offense, left guard, left tackle, that's not that big of a deal. Then you go to the defensive side of the football, and you look at losing Javon Holland, and you say to yourself, is Iffy going to be the starter there? He's been a backup. You want to get better in that area. So that's a hole. Then you need another safety, in which we brought in Calais Campbell, but he's a backup. That's another hole. That's 4 holes right there. You got Jalen Ramsey on one boundary, but who's on the other? That's 5 holes because Cam Smith hasn't come to. You need an interior linebacker. That's 6. We got a plethora of pass rushers, but a lot of injuries. So you don't want to count it as a whole. You just know that you don't know the reliability that you have at the position, so you ignore it. But then you go to the interior of the D-line and you're like, okay, we got Zeeler, but that's it. Calais Campbell may come back. We just got news he's going to the Cardinals. That's 7 holes. A group of guys battling at the slot, corner, nickel, maybe. I'm not even going to count it as a whole. We always have a committee for that. And so when you stop right there and you say, we have 7 holes where we need, and these are starters. I'm not even talking about depth. These are just pure starters. And you say, how do you make this up? Because you can't go into the season without your units ready to roll. You can't. So then you start compromising. You start saying, yeah, both safeties aren't starters, but one of them will start. Okay, well, that's conceding that we're downgrading already at the safety position. So maybe not 7 holes, but 6. And then you say to yourself, okay, what else can we concede on the roster? There aren't any more concessions. There aren't any more, okay, he could play there and be a starter even though it's a downgrade, because everything else is a massive downgrade. So you say the Miami Dolphins, there's still free agents out there, and there's also the draft. Can we fill 6 starting holes on the draft or in free agency? And you can fill some of them, but here's where the problem comes. Priorities. When you look at all those positions, what are some of the positions that's major priorities? That guard position is a major priority. If Teron Armstead doesn't come back, that left tackle position is a major priority because Patrick Paul isn't ready. The safety position is a major priority. The corner opposite Jalen Ramsey is a major priority. Defensive tackle next to Zeeler is a major priority. Like all of these positions, like, can you survive with a less than player? Yeah, you can survive, but you're not winning. You're not doing anything special. You're just playing a season. So people say, we got draft picks though. And I'm the type of person that loves to say to myself, I only fill holes in the draft with the first and the second round. And that's still a crapshoot, but that's where I fill holes. So with 6 priority needs in the draft, say you fill 2 of those holes, starters day 1 in the first round at 13, in the second round at 48. You still got 4 holes. Then you're begging. You're literally begging Teron Armstead, please play. And there's no guarantee. And I'm going to be honest with you. The Calais Campbell move was devastating, but if Teron Armstead retires, massively devastating for the Dolphins. Because most of the good defensive tackles are gone in free agency. You're not going to find a left tackle in free agency. A good one. And you've already invested enough mid money in safety to where you're not going to, unless you do it in the draft, you're not going to go get one of these other free agents at safety that's better than what we already got brought in. Same thing with the cornerback position. So you fill 2 holes in the draft, it's like, okay, good. But then you have a debate of what 2 holes would they be? Like, who are we drafting at 13? What's the most important position, ladies and gentlemen? As soon as Calais Campbell said he wasn't coming back, everybody, defensive tackle at 13. What happened to the left tackle at 13 that everybody was talking about? What happened to the cornerback? What happened to Will Campbell? What happened to all of them at 13 that everybody was talking about? So now, since Calais Campbell isn't coming back, now the 13th overall pick is going to be a defensive tackle? Maybe. So there goes your first round pick. But what do you draft in the second round now? You can't go get a left tackle, another Patrick Paul. You're not getting a bookend tackle in the second round. I mean, you might find one, but you can't bet on it. What are you doing in the second round? What are the Miami Dolphins doing at draft pick number 48, ladies and gentlemen? What are the Miami Dolphins doing at the 48th pick? That's the question. What position do you attack? I'm seeing offensive tackle at 48, like we did with Patrick Paul. Second round bookend tackle. I don't like it. I'm going to be honest with you. At 48, you want one of the better players at a position. It got to be guard or maybe even a corner. You got to go guard or corner in a safety. See if you could bring in another version of Brandon Jones, maybe. And let's not forget, Javon Holland was a second rounder, just a little higher. $36. And people are saying pass and run blocking tight end. No, I mean, that's hustling backwards, ain't it? You're going to go get a tight end when you need a guard. You're going to get a tight end when you need a corner. You're going to get a tight end when you need a safety. You're going to get a tight end even though you need a tackle, even though it's not a good place to get one. The Miami Dolphins are in a really rough situation. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to predict this. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I'm going to make a bold prediction here. The Miami Dolphins, if they really want to have a chance to bring in the right pieces and the talent necessary to help the team this year, then they are going to trade out of 13 into the 20s. The Miami Dolphins, if they want to bring in as much talent as possible to fill some of these holes, they are going to trade out of 13 into the 20s. They are going to send the 13th overall pick to a team, and they're going to get pick hypothetically 25 back, and they're also going to pick up an additional maybe second round pick. That's what's going to happen. So Miami will be picking like 25th, 36th, and 48th to get 3 players in that mix. That's what's going to happen. And when they move down, they can still take a nice defensive tackle. They can also get a nice corner, and they can get a nice guard maybe at 48. We got a roster issue, and they're going to have to go in free agency and get a few more players at some of those other holes, veterans that could start just to make up the team. And in the third, fourth, and fifth, and so forth rounds, you draft players that you hope work out and shock the world and fill these spots. But this roster, we got a roster problem, and it's grim. We're like literally on pins and needles. We're on real pins and needles. So if Miami is smart, you got to take that 13th pick and you got to flip it for multiple picks. And I see Glenn is in the chat saying they could trade away next year's picks, but not sure they do that. They can't trade away next year's picks. No, they definitely can't do that because it's a high probability now that there's going to be a new general manager and or coach in place. A new general manager or coach in place. And real quick, we have someone in the chat, DF Forever, asking TD quickly, can you please share how Miami has improved this offseason? Only asking because of health. I have been unable to follow. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Salute. Well, first off, I hope you feel better and get better, DF, or whatever it is. And you haven't been able to follow, but the Miami Dolphins have not made not one iota of an improvement. Now, they did bring in James Daniels, who is a really good guard if he could stay healthy, but he's injury prone as well. Very injury prone. But if healthy, he's a really good guard. Outside of that, a whole bunch of complimentary backup type players that might get a chance to start in Miami because the roster's so thin. I mean, I've expressed this years ago to everyone when no one wanted to believe me. I said 3 years ago that this is the best roster that you're going to have in a very long time. And it was. And I said it's still going to be good for years to come, but it's going to get less and less and less. And if you're not in the AFC Championship or a Super Bowl early on, then you're going to regress. And we all know we haven't been in that position. So, and now we're regressing more and more. We didn't even make the playoffs last year. And some people say, yeah, because Tua missed 6 games. Do you all know what our record was in those 6 games Tua missed? Does anybody remember what the record was in those 6 games that Tua missed? If I'm not mistaken, it was 4-2. I mean, 2-4, excuse me. If I'm not mistaken. And correct me if I'm wrong, acknowledge me if I'm right. But we were 2-4. And if Tua didn't get hurt, many say we would have made the playoffs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's what a lot of you don't realize. The Miami Dolphins were 3 games out of making the playoffs. 3 games. Well, 2 games, excuse me. Even if we won that last game, we wouldn't have made it. We would not have made it. We needed to win 2 more games to make it. So when you see that we went 2-4 without Tua, take away those 2 games that we won. That was not consequential. You have to focus on the fact that we lost 4 times when Tua was out. 4 times. And we needed 2 of those 4. And it's a matter of, would we have gotten them? Would we have gotten them? And we can argue that. Many will say, yeah, we would have. We always do this. And unfortunately, we've gotten to a point to where we actually can't say if he was playing, we would have won him. Why do I say that? Because 3 years ago, Tua missed the last 4 or 5 games or something like that. And everybody said if he was playing, we would have made it. We would have actually have won a certain amount of games. Then the year where he played all the games, we made it, but it was the exact same record. We were like 2-5 or 2 or something at the end of the season. So even with him healthy, we ended up with that same type of situation where we won like 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 6 games or something. And last year, missing out again, we lose games. But we don't know if we would have won them either way. We make the assumption that we would have. Last year, we needed 10 wins to get in. We needed 10. We got issues moving forward. I've already told everybody that the roster is going to get worse and worse, and now look at us. Since 2 years ago, this roster has gotten worse and worse. Subtly. Losing out on big talent, bringing in older talent that's solid, but not quite what it was. You're starting to see the cracks. So what do you think next year holds? Thankfully, Brandon Shore is being responsible, not allowing deals past 1 year. Thankfully, the recovery time for this, if it fails, is not going to be as bad. Many of you in the future need to look back at this moment. The fact that we've been very humbled in this offseason is going to save our recovery time for years to come. And no, we're not getting off scot-free. Next year will be even worse. But the year after that, there are brighter days because of the moves that we're making today, the smart decisions that we're making today. And I don't mean to sound like, oh, it's definitely doom and the season's over, but I will tell you this is not a Super Bowl caliber roster. Now, the best coaching in the world can change that, but like I said, this is not Super Bowl caliber roster. We're going to need some heroics from Chris Greer and Brandon Shore on draft night or leading up to it, and some nice little complimentary moves afterwards. We're going to have it. Because it's not looking good. And the last thing you want is an era to be coming to an end. And if there is an era coming to an end, you got to ask yourself, whose era is it? Is it the Chris Greer era? Is it the Mike McDaniel era? Is it the Tua Tagovailoa era? I don't know, but here's what I will tell you. We haven't had a head coach in the last 20 years that's made it past 3.5 years. I want y'all to think about that. Out of the 5 million coaches we've had, not a single one of them has made it past 3.5 years as the Miami Dolphins head coach. And Mike McDaniel has an opportunity to break that record if he can make it past mid-season this year. Or hold a new record if he gets fired at the end of the season. But we got to do something special. And our schedule is like not a cakewalk, but it's manageable. It's not easy, though. But if we're playing great football, it's manageable. They need to figure this roster out And when it's all said and done, give us real hope. Right now, they're asking us to have our hope leaning on Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Please don't forget, we haven't had them. And when they're back, we got a new game team now. That's what they're telling us to hold our hope on, because they aren't doing anything else. They haven't made any other moves. And I'm really concerned. I'm concerned because Chris Greer came out in a press conference and finally said, we have to address the O-line now. But what we've done, James Daniels is a solid guard move, but this isn't what we call addressing it. It's not what we call addressing it. But we shall see. And time always tells, ladies and gentlemen. But again, we have a roster issue that needs to be fixed. Calais Campbell will no longer be a Dolphin, and that's a brutal one. And let me end by saying this. Calais Campbell, a lot of people are online and through the blogs and everything saying, oh my gosh, this is so sad that Miami Dolphin fans, they were hoping their full season relied on a washed up 40-year-old D lineman who doesn't even play over 60% of the snaps. How sad to be relying on that. Well, first off, to respond to that, it is sad. But furthermore, let's not discredit Calais Campbell. It is sad for the Dolphins to even have put themselves in this position. But don't discount Calais and how great he was last year. But that's not the point I want to make. The point that I do want to make is the Miami Dolphins losing out on Calais Campbell is going to serve as a massive blow and potentially end game for the Miami Dolphins. Not because of him as the player, but I don't know if y'all noticed, but we finally got to see what a leader looked like in the locker room. We finally got to see how a leader sounds, how he carries himself, how he holds those around him accountable, how he's motivating those around him, how he's dragging those that are around him, how he's requiring greatness around him. The intensity, we finally got an opportunity to see what that looked like in the Miami Dolphins locker room, and it was shortly lived because he is now gone. Nobody else brought what Calais Campbell brings to the table, how intense he is in that leadership. Nobody. Cap for Life compensatory picks are for the following season, so next year, because we could also lose it. If we go out there and sign a $5 million player, we lose the 4th round pick. So, yeah, we got a 4th round compensatory. It looks like we might get. But if we go sign a player, or any time in the season, if you sign a player of the exact same value, it offsets. If you go get a $3 million player, that pick might turn to a 6th. It's a chart. It's so I don't never worry about that until we've actually received it. You can go pick up a player before camp at a position for $5 million and wipe it out. You can get somebody in the season and it can affect it. So once we get the comp pick, that's when it matters to me. But there you have it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I have for you. We got to fix this roster if we're going to go in the war this year, even thinking of having a chance, because we're in trouble. Now we got to hold our breath and see what Teron Armstead is going to end up deciding. Now we've come to that point. What is Armstead going to do? We shall see. Thank y'all for tuning in to Bleacher Report again. I'm your host, TD from TD Fans Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. Y'all punch the like button. I will see y'all next Wednesday, every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. right here on Bleacher Report. Love you, love you, love you. See you soon. Peace. I am out. For those watching on YouTube, I'm still here with you. One moment. All right, Dolphins are in the same position as the Bengals. Paid QB, 2 paid receivers, no O-line, trash defense. Yeah, Big Poppy, I understand that, but they're in a better position because they QB better. If the Dolphins had their offense last year, we'd won 14 games. We would have won 14 games, man. Guaranteed. Did we not lose with said players? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we ain't ranking on Tua, man. Tua gonna take Salsa Clay. Y'all messing with Tua, man. All right, y'all. Anywho, man, I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Fins up no matter what. I'm gonna get out of here. I haven't really felt well. I'm on some pain meds, been having some back issues. So just trying to get better there, man. It's all good. TD, both Dolphins and Bills both need defensive pieces in the draft ASAP. Yeah, but when you got a quarterback like Josh Allen, you still can go to the playoffs regardless. You still can make plays and do enough to help your team win. So we'll see. Thank you, Mudbone. All right, y'all. I'm finna get up out of here. I will see y'all soon. Y'all stay blessed. Peace. I am out. And don't forget, Miami Dolphins. Well, I'll announce that later. But don't forget we got the AFC's roundtable in about 20 minutes on AFC's roundtable. So y'all come through and support that. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.